Okay.
Hello and welcome to the breakout session for the 2020 Capacity Building Institute, illustrating a panel session for employment. I hope that you have your favorite drink and are ready to receive some good information about making connections in your community. I'm Wendy Ritz from the Indiana Secondary Transition Resource Center. Along with me from the INSTRC team is our project lead, Kathleen Hardy-Hansen, and Research Associate Mike Nevins. Our guest speakers today are going to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with Thomas. And Thomas isn't with us. I'm going to go to Stan Keeps.
Good morning. My name is Stan Keepus. I'm the Executive Director of the ARC Southwest Indiana in Gibson and Pike counties.
And Marjorie.
Morning. My name is Marjorie Duryea, and I manage employment services with Easter Seals Crossroads in Indianapolis.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate that you were able to give up your time today in this unprecedented time. We are recording this session for all of our viewers, and we're going to ask you a couple of questions that we believe will help our viewers in setting up employers and making those great connections within our communities.
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to start with questions. Question number 1.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd love you to tell us a little bit about what you do and the ways your organization work to collaborate with both the schools and employers. So it's a two-part question.
Okay. You want me to start?
That'd be great.
Okay. So at the ARC Southwest Indiana, we work with school corporations and employers in a few different ways. We have a project search program here, and we average around 5 to 6 students per year. And we use Gibson General Hospital as our host site, and we prepare students in their senior year of high school through classroom learning and then actual work experience out in the different departments of the high school. And so the student is actually able to participate in work at the hospital and do rotations in areas such as accounting, janitorial, kitchen work, laundry, emergency room this semester. So we actually got some good experiences going on there. We have a pre-ETS program that we're really proud of. We work with 5 different high schools here in Southwest Indiana. We feel like our career coach is doing a great job in not only working with the kids in the schools, but also getting them work experiences out in the community during the summertime, and then some even in the evenings. But our go-to, our area that we've had a lot of success is our relationship with Toyota. So Toyota Motor Manufacturing Indiana is located here in Princeton. They employ 6,000 people. And then they also have all of their vendors and suppliers around the area. So in a 2.5-mile radius, there's 10,000 jobs here in the Princeton, Gibson County area. And we have tapped into that. We have people placed out there, and we have 2 or 3 strong programs that I can share as we move on. But we're really trying to open it up to high school kids for work experiences. And then as they transition out, we have internships available, and just a really host of opportunities out at the Toyota campus and all of its suppliers in our area.
Thank you. Marjorie?
Hi. We work with schools in a variety of ways. We also have Project Search here. We work with Community Hospital East and Community Hospital North, 2 different sites, and through those sites we work with several different school corporations. We also have a large pre-ETS program that's actually a collaborative among I'm not involved directly in that, so I can't quote you the numbers of the different providers and school systems, but it's pretty large across Marion County and into all of the surrounding counties. And one of the things that they were able to start last year that is really a great opportunity for pre-ETS students is a program with Community Hospital South that's very similar to Project Search. The only difference is they're using students out of the pre-ETS program. And then through our employment services, which I'm involved with, we work with many different schools, and we work with a lot of different employers around central Indiana. We work with a lot of young adults who are transitioning out of high school, as well as those who have already made that transition. And I think over the past couple of years, with a lot of increased emphasis and interest on working with transition age, we're getting more students who are still in high school, and a lot of times are looking at secondary education. So the focus isn't always as much on jobs as helping them figure out what they're interested in doing after high school, and then where are their training opportunities for that. So I've really seen an increase in that.
Thank you. It sounds like you guys both have lots of experience with a variety of settings, including pre-ETS. You both mentioned Project Search, which schools do have accessibility, but not all schools have Project Search around them. So thank you for expanding that question. If you guys are okay, we'll go on to question 2.
Ready.
I had a question about, can you explain a little bit about some traits and characteristics you look for when you're working with an employer? And kind of as another part of that, are there some things that schools and teachers can do to help that working with those employers to make that collaboration successful?
The one thing, oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say the biggest thing that I think is a predecessor of success, especially when you're working with a young adult, is the business open to the job coach being involved in the process. Some employers really aren't, or maybe have rules around who can be on a job site. So knowing up front, if it is a student who is going to need support on the job, are they open to the idea of having the job coach? And have they ever done it before? It's key, because if they're not open, even if they let you, but they're not really open to that concept, it's typically not going to work out really well. So I think that's the number one thing. And that job coach's involvement, I think, as we all know, can vary. It might just be coming along on the interview. Are they okay with that? It might be involved in taking different types of pre-employment screening tests. Are they open to having some help, maybe reading questions, things like that? And then once they're on the job, will they allow the job coach to be there to help them through all of the training? Many jobs have computer-based training now that's required. And it's not really a skill set that's indicative of the duties that they're going to do once they're on the job, but they have to get through that process. And then obviously having that job coach with them while they're learning the job, both in the hard skills as well as the soft skills and building natural supports. I think that's key. And then the other thing is just, are they open to accommodations, and not the kind of hard accommodations like wheelchair accessible, but those softer accommodations, working around the skills, maybe needing a break sometimes to catch their breath, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I would just second that. I think that's an excellent response. A couple of things that I would just highlight in what was just said was that if you find an employer that's had previous experience working with a person with a disability and there's been some success there, or even a failure there, but the person is open-minded in trying again and understanding what may have went wrong or what can be done differently. Mm-hmm. The other thing that we really look for and we're able to capitalize on is if you can get a champion within an organization or a business.
Yeah,
for example, somebody who has, it really is. Somebody who maybe has direct experience either with a child with a disability or a family member with a disability, somebody who really takes that personal and has a passion for wanting to see people with disabilities succeed. One of the things that we've really found is, especially at Toyota, they haven't lowered the bar in quality or safety concerns or anything like that. But they've also been patient, and they've looked to see they don't call it an accommodation, they call it Kaizen, because whenever they look at something and see something that somebody's struggling at, they improve that technique or that process for their entire plant, not just for that one individual. Now, I understand that there's a lot of especially smaller employers who aren't going to take the time to do that. But that champion, that somebody who has a personal connection to somebody with a disability, can help you really along in the process of a person with a disability being successful in their job. And then the other thing that I would highlight along with the job coach is if you can develop natural supports within that business or that industry, if you can get other people who work there, who are their peers or coworkers, to buy in and want to see that person be successful, that can go a long way as well. And just that somebody to take interest in whenever the person is struggling in some certain way, whether, and it's not always job related, but you know, what the emotions and other things that we bring to the job are just as important as being able to do the job themselves. So just having that friend or that natural support to help people along and feel comfortable. You know, a lot of times the person with a disability feels kind of like an outsider. They got the job coach there, and all eyes are on them, and they have these special accommodations. But if they're brought in a comfortable environment where everybody's supportive, I just think that is a good recipe for success.
That's an excellent point. We always say that we start fading the day they start on the job, and the biggest part of that is finding that natural support, like Stan said, that person that's going to be their go-to, that they're going to be comfortable going to with a question, who can kind of take over that natural role of the job coach.
I had sort of, sorry, Wendy. Can I ask another question just to go off one of those? I was wondering if you had any success stories with employers who maybe didn't seem to be as open at first, whether it was to a job coach or some of the accommodations, but whether, you know, did you have techniques or some kind of experience with success in changing their mind or helping them be more open? I guess I thought about how amazing the Toyota story is, and if you use that kind of as an introduction to someone who might be a little hesitant.
We definitely use the Toyota experience with other employers in our area to get our foot in the door there. You know, to be honest, there was a little bit of resistance at Toyota, not with the leadership and not with our champion who wanted to make this thing successful, but with coworkers a little bit. Not bad, but you know, it's somebody coming in as somebody different, somebody who slowed the line up occasionally, and that affects everybody. And so, you know, to really get the backing of the leadership and let those other workers in Toyota know that this is something that we want to see succeed. And then, to be quite honest, after a few hiccups, bumps in the road, I don't want to call them failures, but there were some issues that we had to work through. But since that time, our success out there with the individuals that we've placed has been very high. And our people show up to work, they don't miss, their safety is very high. And we were able to, I think, earn some credibility just by doing good work, not asking for a charity or feel sorry for me or help me through this, I have a disability. It was just earning respect by doing a good job and showing up to work on a daily basis. And yeah, just to kind of then follow up on that, we do use that. We do use our quality and our safety with other employers to give us a chance, and we can point to examples of success for them to kind of look into.
I think a couple of other points to that question are really key is that job coach who goes into that employer who's doubtful, that they make sure they follow up and they do everything they said they were going to do, that they're honest. I think another factor is that not going on this premise that everyone with a disability is going to be wonderful and going to be the best employer you had. Just like any other employee, some situations are going to work and some are not. And supporting that employer through those situations where it's not working out. I've had the circumstance sometimes where you sort of have to give an employer permission to say, hey, this isn't working, we need to end this relationship. I think that's one of the scenarios that can put a bad taste in a business's mouth. If they hire someone and it doesn't work out and they don't get support, it's like, oh, we've tried that before, we're not doing that again. But I think if you're there and you all give it your best, and then at the end of the day, just like with people without disabilities, this isn't a good match, we need to end this. I think that can make all the difference in the world, from their openness to trying another individual. So if it's a new business, we always want to think about, let's send our best worker candidate, because this is the first person in, but we also need to think about that job coach really needs to be on their best game and follow through. Because that's one of the, I guess I'm getting a little off topic, but I think that's one of the things when you approach a business that is not receptive, is they've had a bad experience. And like Stan said something to that effect, I think not shutting that down, if you get that objection, we've tried that and it didn't work out, is, well, tell me what didn't work out, you know, what could have been different, and then trying to take it from that point and make sure that those same mistakes don't happen.
Very good.
Thank you guys and it's okay that we got a little off topic. That's what a panel discussion is all about. So I heard you both say that you're working on interview skills. And so I just want to illustrate for our teachers and our administrators that are watching out here, that these are things that we can include in our transition services and activities. The screening test, for instance, those are our employability skills that we're looking at. Marjorie talked about the computer-based training. We often don't think about skills that students need that would help them be effective. And even though that's not something that they will be doing in a day-to-day basis, it's something that they have to do prior to hitting the floor running. So you both also mentioned natural supports, and we know that those are very valuable for our students and for adults alike. And I don't know that you mentioned this specifically. However, through both of your conversations, I heard that self-advocacy is something that you need to encourage our students to have as well, because when they are on a job and something's not going right, knowing to ask for those accommodations or how to tell someone that I need help is something students need. So thank you for that discussion question. That was awesome. Marjorie, you mentioned something about taking a bad experience and learning from it. No one's perfect, whether I have a disability or not. So thank you for bringing that to light. Stina, is there anything else that you would like to add to turning a bad experience into a positive one?
No, I think, you know, the point was made very, very well. It is that we can learn from those bad experiences just as much as we can from a good experience. We have to continually improve. The follow-up, the professionalism of the job coach and the relationship that they build with an employer, so the employer knows that they will be there for them and they will work through problems, and that permission to end a relationship. Those are all extremely good points. And, you know, we have had those situations where we have had to discuss with the employer that this just isn't working out. But, you know, all good points were made there. The self-advocacy, you know, an individual needs to learn how to speak up for themselves and to let them know what their concerns are or their fears are, or when they need help or what's going well. I mean, these are just all things that are great points that are being made in this, and they're all very, very high priorities on helping somebody be successful.
So we have another question for you guys. What do you think schools need to work on to help prepare our students after they leave high school?
One of the things that I think is really important, and it's schools as well as parents, because we work with a lot of young adults who are out of school, is one, and I know schools are doing this with work experiences, but giving students as many work experiences as possible, but pushing them a little bit out of their comfort zone. A lot of time we get someone and because maybe they push back or, have a negative response or behavior that results if they're asked to do something they don't want to do, and pushing that, because work is work and there are parts of everyone's job that they'd really rather not do. And I think people get into trouble sometimes. They get into a job and they don't want to do certain parts of it, and that's where the trouble comes. They love doing one thing and they'll do that all day long, but sometimes you have to do that other thing. So pushing people a little bit past their comfort level, and I think that's particularly true with individuals with autism. And we serve many, 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 many individuals with autism these days. But I think that's really key, is helping them understand you're not going to like every part of your job, and let's work through this part that we don't like.
Excellent point. And I would add to that, I would like to see, and we kind of emphasize this in our pre-transition program, or our pre-S program a little bit, is those soft skills, like learning how to be polite, learning how to look somebody in the eye and advocate for yourself and to speak up, having good hygiene and why that's important. These are all things that we see, but just, those soft skills about communicating, those things are all important. And we find a lot of times that the person can do the job. It's the other things that hold them back. And so
Right.
if things can be developed before they seek employment, I think everybody has a head start.
And the other thing that's really important, if the school is working with a business and have students doing volunteer experience, is making sure that they're providing that education to the business about the student. And a couple of things Stan said, the communication. I can think of instances where, again, I'll go back to the example of autism. I could think of an individual who really won't talk, was working in a healthcare facility in the kitchen area, and this person wouldn't talk to you until he knew you. Well, if a coworker or a supervisor didn't have some explanation, he's not being rude, he's not ignoring you, that's just part of who he is. Once he gets to know you, then he'll talk to you. But because that's where you can get some real hard feelings. The other thing is some of that, again, I'll go back to autism, is that black and white. Michael's my supervisor, so I'm only going to do what Michael says. If Wendy's a lead and she tells me something to do, I'm going to say, you're not my supervisor. I'm not doing that. I only do what Michael says. Well, again, that kind of scenario can cause a lot of hard feelings. So I think that employer education piece is crucial for the scenario to work. So just remembering that, not just assuming that they're gonna know all those things, because those are the scenarios, like that Stan said, the soft skills are sometimes the biggest barrier, and that's one way that we can help sort of smooth that road, is by providing some education to the people who are going to work with them.
Thank you. So just to illustrate your points, I heard that we want to push our students to go out of their comfort zone, to maybe learn a new task that they hadn't experienced before. I heard that preferred versus the non-preferred activities is something that would be crucial for our students to learn as well. You both have mentioned those soft skills, the eye contact, hygiene, and communication in particular. Indiana has recently started the employability skills standards, and so we want to make sure that we are addressing those. It sounded like they were very important for you and for our students that are on the job, whether it's in a work experience, paid or unpaid. And then educating our employers about the students, so learning about them before they get there so that they can help support them with communication, or to understand the background of that student, that communication would come if they get to know the person a little better. So thank you for those answers. Those are awesome. Mike or Kathleen, do you have any other questions you would like to ask Marjorie or Stan at this point?
I didn't have anything specific other than, was there anything else that you, just to make sure so teachers can know, you talked about that, but any really great things that you've seen a school, or even, I know you work sometimes with adult service providers that have done to set up that employment thing. So just a really, maybe a little technique or something that was really good that you saw somebody do.
That you wished everyone else would do?
Yeah.
I can't think of a specific technique, but I just think the more opportunities for work, and whether those are within the school or outside of the school with businesses, the more volunteer work that's done, and if paid work is possible, the better it is. And I know a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes we get someone referred for employment services who is recently out of school. And what we find as we go through our employment process is they're not ready for work for, different reasons. And the biggest thing that I say to encourage the parents is get them volunteering, get them out in the community where they're dealing with people, where they're doing work tasks. And that is the best way to prepare a young adult with a disability, any young adult, for employment, is experiences working.
So just a lot more experiences. And then you pointed out paid. I think paid, there's really no substitute for a paid experience too. So that's pretty important.
It's a motivator. And, and that's another key point too, is find out what the motivation is. There has to be a motivation. And not everybody we work with, and not just young adults, is motivated by money. Some of the people that we work with don't even have a concept of money, but there has to be some motivation to work, or they're not going to do it. And sometimes it's getting out, sometimes it's social interaction, sometimes it's doing whatever it is they're doing that they really enjoy. And then a lot of time it's money, and that's okay. But there has to be some motivation. I mean, sometimes someone will say, I'll say, well, why do you want a job now? Because I want money, because I want to buy video games. Great, there's your motivation. We all have to have a motivation to get out there and do it, and do those things we don't want to do, and get up early and ride the bus for 2 hours or whatever it is that we have to do to work. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I would just add to that, whenever you talk about techniques of a teacher and things that we've seen, and that what's effective with employers and stuff, it's in my belief is it's the attitude of the teacher or the job developer. If they're passionate about the program and they really advocate for the individuals who they want to get work experiences for, they want to give people opportunities, and they get out in the community, their attitude and their passion is going to sell with the employers. And then it's up, then you got to take from there. You have to communicate, you have to follow up. Everybody doesn't have to be successful, but the professionalism of that teacher or job coach, job developer, has to shine through in those situations particularly. Marjorie made a good point earlier. If you're following up and communicating and you're giving that support, even if it's unsuccessful, you've developed it and probably will maintain that relationship. But if you let it die, if you develop that job and then it's not successful and you don't follow up and you don't communicate and all of those things, you've burnt your bridge there, and you're not going to get anybody back in there. But if the teacher and the job developer is passionate, has a great attitude, and is a good communicator, I think that's as effective as anything else can be.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So in closing today, we would like to express our sincere gratitude for Stan and Marjorie for joining us today and giving us their points and working with students and schools alike. We would like to thank you for watching us today and remind you that there is a quiz at the end, and you'll receive contact hours for viewing this. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.